Prime Minister is returning from, it was a European meeting in Copenhagen, wasn't it, this morning?
Yeah, that's right. So he's had to fly back this morning urgently. Has cut short all of his meetings and just dropped everything to fly back to the UK. So you saw him on the tarmac around a couple of hours ago. Now he's going to be chairing an emergency Cobra meeting this afternoon, we understand. And he was due to host meetings at the European Political Community meeting in Copenhagen. Tackling immigration was meant to be the focus of this day. I think we can hear a little bit more now about what the Prime Minister said just over an hour ago.
The attack in Manchester this morning is absolutely shocking, and all of our thoughts are with those affected. I'm on my way back to London. When I arrive, I will chair an emergency Cobra meeting. I'm already able to say that additional police assets are being deployed to synagogues across the country, and we will do everything to keep our Jewish community safe. I've spoken to Mark Gardner of the CST and Andy Burnham, Mayor of Manchester, and I want to thank the emergency services for the speed of their response.
And he put out a message on social media this morning saying that he was appalled by the attack. And you heard him just there talking about how security is going to be stepped up at synagogues across the country. We don't have much detail about what that looks like, but obviously that's either going to be because of two things, because they believe that potentially there could be another attack, or is it just to reassure the Jewish community that the police, at the Home Office, that the Prime Minister is doing everything they can to assure people that they will do whatever they can to keep them safe, and just for a bit more of a feeling. We do often get that after terror attacks on our streets, don't we? We see extra police being deployed, partly as a reassurance mechanism. So that was what the Prime Minister
which is an understandable response, but to me it's there's no reason not to do it, but it always also feels a bit hollow, doesn't it, for the victims of the attack whenever they happen.
Yeah, it does, for sure. And we've, like I say, we've heard from various politicians across the spectrum this afternoon, this morning. Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, says she's being kept up to date by Greater Manchester Police, urging people to follow the advice of the emergency services. So we will be hearing a bit more, I think, from the Prime Minister after that Cobra meeting. But we are now starting to see a lot more politicians getting involved with messages on social media. Suella Braverman, MP, the former Home Secretary, has said that her thoughts are with those affected, but she also says anti-Semitism is off the scale in our country. All we get is lip service from our political leaders. She says, I hope the authorities have learnt lessons that are transparent with the facts as they emerge. We all have a right to know exactly what's happened. So, like I say, don't want to speculate too much on what she might or might not know,
yes.
But she's being very critical of clearly Keir Starmer, the government leadership in this country, saying we're just getting lip service and saying that the government are clearly not doing enough to target anti-Semitism in this country. And I'm sure many political leaders will agree with some of those sentiments too.
As would I have to say. I was conscious as well this morning of the conversations you and I and Aggie and I have had in recent days, particularly about the speech that the Prime Minister gave, in which he talked about a phrase that leapt out at me. It's quite rare for Keir Starmer's phrases to leap out at me, but it did. A phrase, the attraction of unity. And he was talking about, as you well know, you were there listening, community, the goodness in community, because there is overwhelming goodness in all communities. But there are pockets of overwhelming badness in all communities as well. And it's how we tackle that. And I can only come to the point that he did really in the speech, which is that we can only tackle that with unity. You can only stand alongside your Jewish, Muslim, Christian, non-believing neighbours, every other religion, in the face of this kind of evil. I mean, that's all you can do really, isn't it? And that has to come from the top, but it also has to come from every individual, and that's about the language they use, the people they are prepared to speak to and have discourse with, and the not, and the shouting down and all that. That has to stop. Yeah,
and I think it will. And when you mentioned the Prime Minister's speech there, I will be reminded of some of the what I thought was quite powerful language when he was talking about community in our country. To the woman that helps get kids school uniforms, and to the children that help deliver,
refurbs them, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And to the children that do this, and to the adults that help in their local community, and to X who does this charity work. And he was listing all of these things that make our country wonderful and great, and that community.
Many of them are interfaith as well. The faiths often, the good people of all the faiths get together, but those who want to separate them off and decide theirs is the best, they don't get together. And then the very worst of that is when you start to pour poison in people's ears about other faiths and other people in your community. And I think we've seen so much of that in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and it is, as someone that goes to a lot of political speeches and goes to a lot of,
rallies and events. And
yeah,
stuff,
exactly. And, it's always shocking when you have to go and cover an event that happens to be at a Jewish community centre and you see these, people from the Community Security Trust and others standing guard outside in London, an event where you have to go through airport-style security to get in. And, you saw the swift response of them today, the swift response of the police, and the swift response of the community dialing into police. And, hopefully the Prime Minister will be able to take some of that,
and run with it.
Good news and run with it and use some of that sort of nature of the language that he used in that speech, that unity, that community, and double down on that language, because I think that's exactly what people are going to want to hear from him at the end of the day today.
I think it's the mutuality as well. Remember when the riots happened and when the in Southport, before the bigger series of riots happened a few days later, there was an imam in Liverpool who stood against those people who came and wanted to make more trouble, and he was really his name was Adam something, I can't remember his full name, but he's a tall, very impressive looking man, and he stood for peace and stood for mutuality and stood for community, and we need more of that. We need as many voices doing that as possible, I think, in moments like this. Thanks, Natasha. And that Cobra meeting this afternoon.
Yes, this afternoon, middle of the afternoon, I'm told. So hopefully we'll hear a little bit more from Keir Starmer, I imagine, and from the government, who I imagine will want to give a few more details. I imagine the police will want to give a few more details. So we'll keep you across all that.